set the tone.
Dragon dollar-rated limit. Go, at the court.
They're initiating the capture of the Dragon. Standing by. Capture is confirmed.
Houston Station, looks like we got us a Dragon by the tail.
This is these people do not work for NASA. They don't work for the US government. This is a startup. This is a California company run by this man, Elon Musk. And I'm going to tell you a bit in a kind of space rocket tour why people like Elon Musk are changing the world, and they're going to affect everybody. So a lot of what I'm going to go through sounds like tech, sounds very specific, but it's going to affect your business. This is affecting everything from education to healthcare to manufacturing. And it's people like this. As well as running SpaceX, he's also got another day job running Tesla, trying to make electric cars cool. He also set up another company, Solar City, which is the biggest supplier now of domestic solar panels to American homes. And he's got 5 children, 2 ex-wives, and he's 42. So I don't know what you've achieved today. And I'm going to talk about why this mindset that people like him have. The people like Jack Andraka, who spoke at the Wired conference last October. This guy, age 16, science prodigy, goes into a science lab and is really curious how you can develop ways to diagnose illness like pancreatic cancer that a relative had. And so he does it. He creates a diagnostic test that costs just $1 or $2 and is as effective as the very expensive proprietary one. And there's a mindset that comes out of not just California, but a lot of it comes out of some of the thinking that percolates companies like Google. When Larry Page was a student, he went on a leadership course through this organization called Leadership. And they teach you to have a healthy disregard for the impossible. And we have to realize we're all up against now people with a healthy disregard for the impossible who don't see the rules you see, but who win. So I'm going to talk a bit about this mindset and some of the places I go. I was in Spotify's office a few weeks ago in Stockholm. This is a company that goes to music companies and says, okay, so I know you've been very profitably selling the physical CD, but I'm going to ask you to stop selling it, actually to give away your music online. But they bought it eventually, and now Spotify is in 55 countries, it's incredibly successful, and the music industry has bought in. On Daniel Ek's office, there's this Stratocaster guitar with a quote above it from George Bernard Shaw. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable man persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. So all progress depends upon the unreasonable man. And I'm going to talk a bit about some of these unreasonable people. At Google's head office, you get posters like this on the main office door, trying to make you think existentially what kind of company we are. But don't think from now. Think about when the web is 100 times faster. In Facebook's office in California, you get posters like this in the office. If you're fearless, what could happen? Move fast and break things. Done is better than perfect. Just get the product out there and see what the market wants. Even, is this a technology company? And somebody you might be able to see is scribbled underneath. No, it's a poster-making company. So of the 10 trends that I'm going to run through, the first one is a pretty big one, and that's what we've known as the internet as just chapter 1. Little tiny, very low-cost sensors are being embedded into everything. It's going to be the chair you're sitting on, it's going to be the clothes you're wearing, and that's going to change things. And I'm talking about companies like Nest that makes this learning thermostat. This is the company set up by Tony Fadell, who created the iPhone, and before that, the iPod at Apple. He sold this to Google for $3.2 billion a few weeks ago. The idea of the Nest is you're in the home, it works out, it's got sensors, what your preferences are, who in the family is walking through, and it learns. And they're just starting. It's going to be they're doing a smoke alarm. Every appliance in your house is going to become smarter. I was talking to a couple of East European entrepreneurs that have created this product. It's called Teddy the Guardian. It's a furry teddy bear that you give to your child. Why? Because it's got lots of sensors in the arms. It can tell how stressed your child is, their temperature, all sorts of other things, and you subscribe to a service. And you can get that if you're an anxious parent at work, want to know what's going on, you check on your phone. New business model, new technology, empowering this. If you remember Star Trek, Mr. Spock and his tricorder, it can instantly tell you what's wrong with you. Well, we're now in a world where we have tricorders. So this is a company in California called Scanadu that's developed this very low-cost device that's due to go on sale later this year for about 90 or 100 pounds, that you point to your forehead, it takes, heartbeat, blood pressure, all sorts of other metrics. There's a $10 million X Prize to create, effectively, the tricorder that Qualcomm has been backing. And all sorts of young entrepreneurs, Jack among them, are, trying to rethink what medicine is, and why not? So
this is Lockitron.
In the sensor world, where everything is connected to the internet, you get really smart ways of rethinking stuff we take for granted. This is Lockitron, a lock that you can control from anywhere in the world through your smartphone. Not a bad idea if you're letting your place out to a stranger. Not every Internet of Things idea is going to change the world. This is called the Milkmaid. It's a jar with sensors that will send a message to your iPhone when the milk is starting to go sour. We've all been waiting for this. But if you think about sensors embedded, connected to the network, Wired did a project about what it's going to be like in everyday life. So, you're driving along the street, the taxi will get automatic directions based on your online schedule. The sandwich shop will know that you're coming near, so it will start your order. Or, probably more important, on the very right, the smartphone will warn you if there's an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend walking towards you so you can cross the street. But, this is just the beginning. So you play with apps. Maybe you even add things to your phone. But we're now about to get phones that can detect smell. Kind of blows my mind. So this is going to affect all sorts of businesses, often in ways we can't predict. If you're in medicine, these tiny little devices that, tell you what's in your blood, tell you what's wrong with you. Already you're getting companies like Things, a French company, that will sell a clinical-grade blood pressure monitor that you plug into your phone. If you think about it, a lot of the time wasted in GP surgery is doing the mundane stuff. Vinod Khosla, one of the big investors, said a while ago that he estimates about 80% of the jobs done by standard doctors could be automated. Some Singularity University students just in the summer made this, which is they've hacked an old Blu-ray player together, and now this is able to read blood. It takes diagnostic tools into like a 100-pound box. So we've learned that, software can change things, but we haven't yet thought about DNA as software. And so there's another revolution happening at the same time, that we're understanding how to modify DNA and how to code it on a computer and actually have it manufactured. There was a place I went to in California where you can just come in off the street and just start biohacking. And the sorts of things people were doing were taking the bioluminescent DNA from a jellyfish and, experimenting with cats and other things. Ethical questions, perhaps. But there was a project that went on one of the crowdfunding sites in the summer, trying to grow trees that glow in the dark. So the idea is, you've got the bioluminescent DNA. If you splice it into a plant, could we not do away with the need to have street lamps? Well, it just takes these smart, disruptive thinkers. So the second of the big trends, obviously, we're all very excited about these things. We probably walk into lampposts because we're checking our messages. I think we have to see these not just for communication, but as a kind of remote control to increasingly everything. So there was a study done by a Finnish telco analyst called Tommi Ahonen on how much we're engaging with our phones. He reckoned 150 times a day, at least, we interrupt to look at the phone. Everything from the alarm that wakes you up in the morning to checking the SMS to using the camera. And that's 150 times a day that we're not engaging with, my magazine, with your business, with our children. And it's been a most fundamental shift. And we're not there yet. So there's like 5 billion mobile phone users, mostly not yet on smartphones, maybe a billion and a half, heading towards 2 billion this year. And that's going to even out this year. And these are people who have probably not been on the internet yet. These are your customers. These are people who could work for you at low cost. And their expectations are going to be fundamentally different from what they have been. And then a new device comes out, a tablet, an iPad, and again, that transforms in real time how quickly you have to re-engage your team to say, actually, our customer behavior is changing. This is the orange line at the end, is quarter by quarter, the number of shipments of tablets. And look how quickly it overtook the blue, which is the notebook PC, and the green, which is the desktop PC. The desktop PC is increasingly not where the money is. If you think about it, the number of new smartphone users, you can't avoid this opportunity. You have to offer your service mobile first, not web first. Look at the money people are spending on mobile payments. I think PayPal have actually just said that last year it was going to be maybe 24, 25 billion through the mobile, and you want to be on that curve. So what's it going to be next year? And then new things come along inside the mobile phone. There's something called Bluetooth Low Energy. Apple created something called iBeacon in the last iPhone 5. And what that does is, through quite a long distance, more than 100 feet, allow the phone to identify to a device in a shop who that person is and what their history has been. And it now means that retailers are going to be able to understand much more about you on an individual level. There's already companies like, this is called Estimote, the little blue box a lot of stores are putting up there, and they can send targeted messages to people who are in the vicinity. Indoor location is about to become as exciting as GPS was if you are trying to know where people are in real time. Companies like Indoor Atlas, they use the fact that your phone moves within varying magnetic fields inside a building, so it can estimate where you are. Apple bought this company called Wi-Fi Slam, which knows, because of the variations in Wi-Fi strength, if you're moving between different Wi-Fi antennae, it can work out where you are inside a store. So the PC era is pretty much over. It was good while it lasted, but look how many more phones are sold. They replace much more quickly, and they're intimate, they're emotional, they're personal to you. And it's not just us in the West. This is the Akash tablet, which effectively is the 15-pound iPad that's being rolled out in India. It's a British company called DataWind that makes it. It costs them $40 to make. The Indian government is buying millions. It subsidizes them by 50%, so it's about $20. Color, touchscreen, Android-powered tablet with educational games, access to the web. It's amazing. The price barrier has dropped. Everybody will be on the network. And I don't know if you've played with the Raspberry Pi yet. It's a British success story. Some Cambridge professors wanted to give low-cost computer, so the next generation of students coming to Cambridge to do computer science would be motivated. £25, now it's come down to about $25. A couple of million of these have been sold. So you have to think how this is going to change the way people engage with your business. So I'm in the magazine world. Obviously, we do apps. But what about today's kids by the time they're grown-ups? So they grow up using these things. Magazines, though, they're not really pinchable. Disappointing. They're not really swipeable either. So what is she going to think by the time she's 18? What will her expectation be of a physical shop? Should the window of the physical shop respond to her personally? I don't think we can go on thinking as many of us were born before the internet. What's going to happen to our kids? What will their expectation be? So one of the other things that's happening big this year is a lot of companies are investing heavily in wearable computing. Now, wearable computing is probably not going to look like this. It probably won't look like this. I'm not sure it's going to look like this either. Because would you feel comfortable? Would you feel your status was enhanced wearing something like Google Glass? I don't know. The technology is really smart. It responds to your commands. It will take a picture. It will show a video ahead of you that somebody sent you. But does it feel intuitive? Robert Scoble, a prominent tech journalist, is obsessed with his Google Glass. He says, I'm never taking it off. I'm never going back. If you don't want to see a picture of a grown man in the shower, look away now. It's got to be part of the way we live. It's got to be intuitive. There's companies now, this is called OmSignal, starting to put embedded technology, sensors in your clothes. It tells you, your heart rate, how many steps you've done, even emotional, your mood. There's companies like Recon putting technology into the screen if you're skiing, so you can see how fast you're going, what the weather's like, where your friends are. Gets very exciting, new opportunities. It simplifies skiing. You wear a wristband, a magic band, if you go to one of the Disneylands. Again, it's been pre-programmed. It gives you access to things if you've got extra privileges of not queuing so much. Again, I think what we want is something that is seamless, that interacts with the world in a way that is friction-free and not clunky. This is quite interesting. This is called the NIME. It's a device that you wear, and it has EEG, and it logs you in, it authenticates you with just a move of the wrist. You have a distinct heart pattern, ECG, and why wouldn't you want to log in just by being there rather than having to remember a password or code? We're heading towards simplification. People are going to get very, very disappointed if they have to do any work. Although you don't want to look like the Blue Douche. Remember this? This is the Onion, but it's got to feel intuitive. One of the other things that's happening is the video screen, the video camera is becoming high power, low cost, and it's going to be everywhere. So we're going to be tracking pretty much everything. We're going to be wearing devices that record. In South Korea, it's pretty much mandatory now for every car to have a video in because you get a lower insurance premium, so there is no argument if someone goes into you. In Thailand, people are putting little cameras, GoPro cameras, in drones and showing real-time news of what's happening on the streets. You can't censor this. This goes out there. It goes onto YouTube. They stream the pictures back. What happened to the days when the authorities thought they could control the story? So you remember when everybody thought, if I learned software, I could create a blog, I could create a web page. It becomes democratized. Well, the same democratization process is happening to making physical hardware. And it's helped by services like Kickstarter. So a crowdfunding platform like Kickstarter, you can go to with any project. If the crowd likes it, they'll back it. The biggest success so far has been the Pebble Watch. They wanted to raise $100,000 to make a smartwatch that talked to the smartphone. They raised $10.3 million. We have some volume. This is Eric, who's behind Pebble.
And this is my Pebble. Pebble is a watch that you can customize. It runs a lot of cool and useful apps and connects wirelessly by Bluetooth to your iPhone or Android smartphone. This is our dream team.
That's their dream team. These are the people taking on Panasonic, taking on Sony, taking on Apple. Anybody can be that dream team now, and it changes the rules. And then new technologies come along. This was a few weeks ago. A bunch of Israeli researchers came up with a new algorithm that allows you to take a two-dimensional picture and work out where it curves. And so you can create a template to actually manufacture a 3D version. So they take a tap, a photo of a tap, and they can work out how to create a real tap that you can rotate. And this kind of blew my mind, because I think now any 2D picture can be turned into a real object. You can just distort a picture, and you can move things around. It's kind of, okay, this is where the world is going. So 3D printing we've heard about. This is played at the Wired conference, a Stradivarius, not a real one. We scanned a real one. A new one was made with a composite material, and it was played. Sounded pretty good. With every new technology, there's a kind of upside and a downside. Some interesting opportunities. This is a company called Schlussel that will let you take a photo of your key, and it will manufacture one and send it through the post. Could be security questions. But there's also, the 3D printed weapons. You can now download the plans. I'm not going to give you the address. If you're the authorities, you're not going to control this. But the democratization is happening in places like this. This is Tech Shop, which is probably a room this big. There's a chain of them in San Jose in California and other places where they have access to tools, laser cutters, woodworking tools, CNC milling machines, 3D printers, sewing machines. And there's a culture forming that anybody who goes in there trying to make something, trying to start a business, is helped by other people. So we've lost sound again.
It supports every layer of product design and development. And the social network, it consists of everything from quilters to welders to people using 3D printers. And there's an amazing cross-pollination that happens there that wouldn't happen anywhere else.
This is really a unique spot. Everyone's doing something really different, but it's all to make some kind of big dream come alive, to make...
When I was in there, somebody had just made a full-size electric motorbike, and somebody else had made a Segway, their own version of a Segway. So the world is opening up. People are going to online platforms to share things. If you want to make something electronic, there are sites like 123D Circuits where you can share, how do I get the components? You get drones anybody can make, the authorities can't control. What happens? There's a kind of dark side. So you get videos like this one online telling you how to shoot from your drone. So he doesn't actually show you a gun, he shows you paintball pellets. See a bit of it.
We're using this, a realistic handgun paintball marker that only shoots these 11mm non-lethal paintballs.
Don't try this at home, okay?
Can a mail-order drone from a kit even handle the stress of rounds cycling through a gun? Is it accurate? Let's find out.
Do you remember the old days when the Civil Aviation Authority controlled what was in the air? That's all gone. Because drones are getting so cheap, there was a startup getting much coverage last year in San Francisco that would deliver your taco with a drone. People were disappointed when it turned out to be a hoax, but then what happened was even more interesting. People thought, actually, that's not a bad idea. And people started pitching businesses that would deliver your fast food, your pizza, through a drone. Makes sense. Automation is getting really interesting. So robotics and artificial intelligence combining. And I'm just going to whirl through some of the examples I'm seeing now. So, Boston Dynamics, a company that Google bought recently, works mostly for the US military, makes a humanoid robot. Go to YouTube, look up Boston Dynamics, you'll have an hour of fun. Some Swiss scientists in Zurich have created drones that they've controlled, they can do some juggling. Couldn't have done this 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So you heard of self-driving cars. This is what Google's car sees when it gets to a junction. What about self-driving planes? So we did a story at Wired about the new era of self-driving planes controlled from the ground. So we're going to see these kind of increasingly low-cost robots in all sorts of fields. So we know about in factories making food. Not good for certain types of jobs, by the way. You may need to be nimble and be able to be retrained. I think it's rather beautiful. There's a kind of ballet to it. But then I don't have a job in these sectors. This is one I like. This is a project for DARPA. This is a hummingbird that can spy. It's got cameras. It streams pictures back in real time. If you look at it, you wouldn't know that was a spy bird. If you don't necessarily trust some of your colleagues at work, just send the little nano hummingbird following them. And artificial intelligence, at the same time, is getting smarter. So you know about IBM's Watson that won this quiz show Jeopardy. We're now getting really smart algorithms that can do pretty much the stuff that we humans do. Google just bought another company called DeepMind, a London company, for 400 million pounds. But there's interesting little things happening. There's an American company called Narrative Science that works out how to write algorithmic news stories. So on Forbes, their business stories are written by an algorithm. As a journalist, it makes me sweat. The algorithms aren't perfect yet. If you see what Google thinks you want through the autocomplete, you can learn quite a lot about, the revolution is not quite there yet. You type in what dinosaurs were, they're made up by the CIA. Type in what are men, according to Google's algorithm. Okay, they're liars and babies and fools, which maybe it is accurate, I don't know. The man who created an app called Path, who was one of the early Facebook people, said something quite smart, that artificial intelligence is the new user interface. And increasingly, we will be engaging with a machine that will be smart and will understand what we want without us having to do anything. So we've got all this, increasingly low-cost robotics. We've got manufacturing becoming accessible, playing with everything, including DNA. Power has moved outwards from the organization to the individual. So behind this door in New York is Kickstarter. Bit of a mess, this door, in Lower East Side, in Rivington Street. But the revolution that companies like Kickstarter have created are just amazing. You're getting companies now going open source to make things like cars. This is OS Vehicle. They're building this car in less than an hour. Peer-to-peer. You can go and get your car. Okay, you may not want to take it out on a Saturday night, but it's the start of something. And if the community can take on the motor industry, what can't they do? If the community can take on the banking and the investment industry, what can't they do? This is AngelList, where angel investors meet, and individual angel investors with a good track record are creating syndicates, and other people can join their syndicate, and they are doing what venture capitalists used to do, and still are doing. But why would you pay the extra fees to the venture capitalists? There are new services like this for illiquid assets. If you have shares in a company that's not yet gone public, you can trade them. It's another open platform. It changes the rules. Encoding, TV. What do you do if you're a TV company now? The talent, the engagement, is going to places like YouTube. This is Michelle Phan. She sits in her bedroom talking about makeup. 2/3 of a billion people have seen it. She launched a $10 a month makeup delivery service. 36,000 people signed up within a day. Makeup companies are having to go to her directly. You've heard of Wikipedia? What about WikiHouse? Open source architecture. Download plans for a building. At WikiHouse, you can get them. You can make your own building. So, if you're a professional, what the hell do you do? How many years does an architect train? And now, WikiHouse. Education at the same time. Sal Khan, former hedge fund trader, puts videos up online, the Khan Academy, getting on for 500 million views. That's him. Pretty amateurish, but they have the information. Even skyscrapers are being crowdfunding. This is in Bogota, a crowdfunded skyscraper. So a new business comes along, changes the rules. Airbnb is kind of moving faster than the hotel industry at a much lower cost base, hardly any staff. Trend 7. Can't think of e-commerce. It's not a separate thing from commerce. People are selling all sorts of stuff online and offline, and it's all coming together. You can create your own shop now in a couple of minutes through a service called Shopify. Another one is called Ticktail. I was in Japan talking to Rakuten. They're creating an online shopping mall for pretty much anybody. One of the big success stories on Rakuten's online mall is a farmer who sells eggs through the post, and he puts videos of the chickens and how happy they are, and he blogs about it. So the online-offline mix has gone. Tesco, which bought Blinkbox, when you buy a DVD, they let you stream it at the same time, because it makes sense. If you're a retail brand, Kate Spade in New York, maybe take up some empty shop fronts and create a clickable window. Take a picture of something, order it, eBay will deliver it within an hour to where you are. If you're an online store, Warby Parker, very successful glasses online retailer, why not take physical space? Because it's about how people discover you. It's not about, oh, we're an online retailer, we're only going to take the money online. Condé Nast invested in a company called Farfetch, which is a very successful platform for hundreds of little boutiques all over the world, from Venice to Munich. Online, offline, coming together. And in fact, e-commerce, if we're allowed to use that word, is nowhere near where it's going to be. It's going for 10% of the commerce market within a couple of years. Interesting things that Burberry and other people are doing, trying to integrate their online, offline experience. So when you're in a store, it's familiar as the online store is. You get Apple with phenomenal results, rethinking what the store is. It's about service. It's about helping people rather than aggressively selling. And they're doing all right.
Imagine you're late to your plane.
And then there's technologies that try and remove the friction of your journey with things like face recognition. This is a company called Unikill that's pitching to be the way that the outside world relates to you because it recognizes you. You're buying petrol, you don't need to put the credit card in, it knows your face. Pekka Underhill, celebrated retail analyst, kind of tells you don't think of your offline and your online as separate, because people, human beings, look at both before making a decision. So the other thing that's happening is people are getting impatient. They want that thing now. So Amazon has created a massive supermarket, Amazon Fresh, in places like Seattle. 100,000 items. Why would it do that? Who wants another supermarket? Because they're developing same-day delivery and they're creating logistics. And if you can get rid of the advantage that physical bookshops have, you get the book now. And if Amazon Online can deliver that, well, it's a winner. So eBay's doing the same thing, Google's doing the same thing, a British company that was bought, Shuttle, is doing the same thing. In fact, it's allowing the crowd to bid for how much it will charge to deliver things. It's happening in China, same-day delivery on bicycles. People are not going to wait. Your competition will get there. And some other interesting thing is time is the scarce commodity now. We're all busy. So there's a book by Alex Ohanian, who's quite a cool dude in the internet world, one of the people behind Reddit. At the back of the book, it tells you how long it's going to take you to read it. Evan Williams, one of the founders of Twitter, has set up something called Medium, and it says next to every story, this is a 3-minute read. I think we're going to get more of that. It's respecting that people are time poor. So to conclude that bit, if you can get rid of the barriers, people will spend more money. If you are a retailer, don't put a block when people are coming to buy saying, will you sign in? Do that afterward. That's convenient for you. Let people just go, experiment, do A/B testing, and follow the numbers, follow the data. And the data is there. There's interesting things happening with retailers using mannequins. This is an Italian company, Almax, to tell you who that person is. This is a young female Caucasian. Tracking people inside stores. This is happening with face recognition. Maybe some privacy concerns, but these companies, Quividi, says it keeps the data secure and it's non-identifiable. But you can see patterns, and it's all about measuring. If you've got a website, is this the optimal way to get people to spend money? Do some A/B testing. Is add to wish list better than add to basket because that's bigger? Try it out. See what happens. And make it easy for people to tell their social networks what they've just bought. There's a company called Jack Threads. Share this sale and get $10. Quite smart. Think of the App Store. Think how simple it is. Think of companies doing finance now online like Stripe. Think of WhatsApp. They try and remove every barrier. You don't even have to log in. A couple of good examples if you want to look at apps that are trying to do this. Hotel Tonight, Uber, make it very easy to get a car. City Mapper, I think, if you're in London. Just remember how hard it was when we all had palms, if you remember them. You had to learn a whole new language. It's not going to be like that anymore. It's going to be much more like Minority Report, where you will walk into the shopping mall, it'll be recognizing you, knowing your desires. And think of ways to simplify the user journey. IKEA's done quite a smart app that uses virtual augmented reality. This is another company called Sayduck. We're going to get apps that help fit your clothes virtually. So data analytics, I'm just going to whiz through because I think this is one of the big tools that all of us should have. Even if you don't think you're into data, it's there for you. If you play games, you are being A/B tested. You're not playing the same game as other people because they're working out how to optimize your journey. change the color of the background, change the speed that the characters move at, and they measure and they change things. Netflix measures what makes people engage more. When you join, they worked out that if they encourage you to save the names of films that you want to see one day, you will be more likely to stay as a loyal customer. So you can play with all sorts of ways to use data. The Obama campaign experimented in 2008 with the way to optimize the number of people signing up to the campaign. So they tried 24 variations of, should the button say sign up, should it say join, different pictures. This was actually the one that got the most click-throughs. It says learn more. But what's really interesting is it went up from 8% to almost 12%, the number of people clicking through, and they wouldn't have known that. And the team behind it said, we think we made another $60 million in campaign contributions by changing to this, but we couldn't have told you that at the beginning. This was on Amazon. Not a very nice T-shirt. And people started asking, how can they sell a T-shirt? And because this company, an Australian company, is a data-led company, it creates random phrases, puts them on T-shirts, don't actually make the T-shirt. It did about 500,000 combinations of words, and this happened to be one. And if somebody likes it and they click through, they'll make the T-shirt. But it just shows you the algorithm now is leading commerce. You get all sorts of companies. This is Walmart in the States monitoring what people are saying on social media. They weren't stocking this thing called the Cake Pop, which is America's latest gift to global obesity. They saw there was a buzz, people talking about it, so they put it on. So you're getting interesting startups like this using data to work out if you really are the person playing with the credit card at that moment. And if you don't have data people in your team, no problem. There's another of these open platforms. This one's called Kaggle, where you can pitch your problem and the crowd will try and solve it, sometimes for money, sometimes because they want to make things better. This is an insurance company called Allstate that found it could raise its efficiency of working out who's going to be a good driver by that many times. You could read people's mood. This is at MIT. So privacy is an issue, clearly. There was a company putting out these bins in London in the summer, the Renew Orb, which tracked what kind of phones were coming past. City of London didn't like that. It wasn't really explaining itself very much, but you have to be careful in communicating. The Russian street map, this is quite interesting. They don't pixelate the faces, Yandex maps. A woman in a town called Perm was looking up, and she saw, actually, that's my boyfriend, and that woman isn't me. That was a true story from the Russian news. They're no longer together as a couple, by the way. So this security thing, it's even hitting your high-end electric toilets. I'm sure many of you aspire to own a toilet that you can control from your app. It's like £4,000 or £5,000. Did you know there was a warning a few months ago by an analyst that it could be hacked? People who didn't like you could set it to flush all night. You didn't think you'd come here today to the Grosvenor House Hotel and learn about the risk of toilets being hacked, but there you go. So 2 more things. First of all, you've got to think about business models in a new way. In the old days, you put something out there, people bought it. In the new days, often you're giving things away, and you get the super fans who end up paying. There's a book called The Curve by Nicholas Lovell, and he gives away an e-book, and he charges for the book, and going right up to the top, he charges like thousands of pounds for a masterclass. Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails, gives away some of his music, gave a very expensive, created a very expensive CD pack. It sold out within hours, like $100. You just have to experiment. If there are people who love your product, don't necessarily set a limit to what you're doing. People are paying for access to things rather than owning things. And also the idea of a community. GoPro, why would a commodity camera be worth £300 or £400? Because people who have it join a community where they share crazy videos like skiing in an avalanche. It's a huge success, GoPro, because they're not selling it as a camera, they're selling it as an idea. So if you're KLM, why not encourage people to decide where they're sitting according to people in their social network? Or maybe avoid sitting near people in their social network. If you're an insurance company, this is Oscar in New York, maybe don't see yourself as an insurer. People hate their insurers. Change it. See yourself as people's partner in health. Create free 24-hour hotlines. You're a health services partner now. Everybody loves that. It's about having a better story. Spotify went to the music industry and they had a better story. We'll make everybody have access to the music they want where they are, and they'll pay for the convenience. So I'm going to tell you how you can earn 2,706% more by putting a story behind your product. There was a project called Significant Objects with a couple of journalists who started buying rubbish objects on eBay, writing blurbs around them with stories, and then seeing how much they'd get. And they found people spending like 30 times as much. They put them in a book. And don't just be where you think the money is. We used to think the money was there, but it's now in all these, including a consulting business and conferences. Vogue is now a restaurant in Moscow. GQ is now a bar in Istanbul. Although you have to be careful, Cosmo became a yogurt a while ago, and that didn't really help anybody. You have to be exponential. So at Singularity University, where I spent a week, they talk about the old linear world, 1 plus 1, you get to 30 at the 30th step. But in an exponential world where everything's doubling because of Moore's law, you get to 1 billion. And we're in that world. We're in that Moore's law curve, and that's affecting everything. The falling cost of solar energy, the falling cost of decoding DNA, falling cost of storage. So don't start from where we are today. Start from, if everything is doubling, if this is a fraction of as powerful as it's going to be in 3 years, if the ability of a new device to become mainstream is getting faster and faster, if companies can be exponential, look how much money Apple's making per employee. Look how many users, active users, WhatsApp have per employee. These are threats maybe, but also opportunities. You know, what happens when a new cryptocurrency like Bitcoin comes along? How do you can't just ignore it. How do you modify how you're doing things? And Bitcoin's just one. There's a whole bunch of them. There's Litecoin and Peercoin. The banks. What do you do if you're a bank? How do you regulate this? And it's the exponential companies that are winning. So I'm going to give you like some of the things that they have very quickly. They have a purpose often. They're often open. They realize talent is outside as well as inside. They move quickly. They're adaptable. They allow the crowd to create with them. They learn from things that go wrong. Jeff Bezos talks about keep experimenting. You become more inventive. And think about this thing called growth hacks, which is rather than just marketing, find ways to get people to do your marketing for you. Just like the little line that used to be on the bottom of Hotmail telling people there was free email. Just like Dropbox now, when you sign up, it encourages you with a bonus storage amount to sign other people up or to connect your Facebook account. LinkedIn keeps experimenting. How can we grow the network? It started buying people's names for Google search results. Keep experimenting, because I think if you have to pay for marketing. So last trend, you've got to disrupt before you're disrupted. Just like this man, Stephen Sasson at Kodak, invented this lovely digital camera. But Kodak didn't make digital, they sold film, so they kind of buried it. Kodak went into bankruptcy last year at a time when this company with 13 employees was bought by Facebook for $1 billion, because this is where the world is going. New device like this comes out, Nokia dismisses it as a niche product because it wasn't how they were thinking. Remember Nokia, anybody? You can't predict how people are going to use a new technology. This is the rebels in Syria. But you can think about which kind of products will engage them. It's not about price. The Nano failed in India, like the £1,000 car, because it wasn't status enhancing. People didn't want to buy it. The pirated movies are the ones that generally aren't available on the paid-for services. People will pay for these sorts of things. TED took a risk by opening out, allowing TEDx of amateurs, non-professionals, to take their brand and run with it. Look how much help it gave TED. Clay Shirky talks about institutions trying to preserve the problem to which they are the solution. And I think we all need to rethink. We need to keep disrupting ourselves. So think in terms of the old days, it was a hierarchy. In the new day, there's other people out there who will work with you. There are companies that see themselves as networks that are doing amazing work. Just unbundle the services we used to pay for at once. In banking, it's happening in education. If you can take individual value propositions, massive new business opportunities. And of course, because we're all connected on the mobile device, all sorts of very fast-growing companies, Uber I mentioned, worth billions now, Halo, Square for payments. Think how these new devices can change what you're doing. And they also talk about, in Silicon Valley, eating your dog food, trying out these services yourself to see what happens. And be open. Don't be scared. You can't keep secrets now. Everything is going to be transparent. Companies like Nike are now putting their global manufacturing supply chain online. You have to. Clothes companies are doing the same. There's one interesting example. There's a fashion brand called Honest that doesn't just tell you where it gets the material. It tells you how it came at the price, how much it costs to make the cotton, how much their markup is. It's really quite interesting. So I will end with a kind of have that healthy disregard for the impossible. Be bold. Companies coming out of Singularity University are worth looking at. Creating a physical internet with drones. This is Matternet. Another one's trying to make synthetic meat. This is Modern Meadow. Peter Thiel put in a chunk of money. Maybe you will have a synthetic steak next time you're at the Grosvenor House. I'm going to give you one last scenario. So it's 1983. This new gadget comes on the market. Celebrity endorsers. You're AT&T, the big American phone company. You think, do we need to start getting into these mobile telephones? You call in McKinsey, you pay them a chunk of money, and you say, by the end of the 20th century, like 17 years from now, how big will this mobile telephone thing be? And McKinsey goes and does the numbers. He says, well, we think in 2000 there'll be 900,000 of these in America, which wasn't a bad guess. It's a little bit out. So I'm going to leave you with the mistake that McKinsey made was threefold. First of all, number one, it started from today's expectations. It didn't think how the technology would progress. These things would get smaller, Moore's law and all that. Number two, it didn't take into account the emotional side of these phones, why we would want them, because they simplify our lives, they connect us to our loved ones. And number three, you can't really see that far into the future if you're not living it. You kind of need to be playing with these things, and you'll get that aha moment. So thank you for listening. I'm going to leave the chart of some of these big 10 ideas, and you're going to do some homework now. Thank you.